What's up, y'all? Once again, my name is Macaulay Sexton. Welcome to Sexton Sobriety. Today, I'm going to talk about why I'm in recovery and how do I stay sober and what's so good about sobriety. Why are you always talking about it? So, in active addiction, I was completely miserable. I was trying to take enough substances so that I could passively take my own life, and this was no way to live. Basically, as a kid, I was extremely sensitive, and so when I found opiates and benzos, I thought, oh wait, maybe this is how I can deal with life, because it would kind of numb me and sedate me and help me to push aside my emotions. The thing is that that was very fleeting. It got to the point to where my emotions were still there, and I was dependent and addicted to very strong substances. So this persisted for a long time, and I didn't think I could get clean. I didn't think I could get sober. And the idea of recovery just sounded boring, whack, and just corny in general. And I thought, like, nah, people that quit are just washed up and they weren't really addicts or alcoholics. And man, I entertained a lot of BS. So basically, I got to the point to where I was dying. When you take opiates and benzodiazepines and sleep meds together, that generally causes respiratory failure. So I was having symptoms of that. I was waking up in the middle of the night, gasping for air, and it was really concerning. But I didn't think there was any other way for me to deal with life, and so I thought I was just doomed to die from addiction. Luckily, I had people intervene, and I had the opportunity to go to treatment. So basically, that is what started the road to recovery for me. But I really want to talk about how it wasn't like I was so gung-ho. I was like, yeah, I'm going to get clean. I'm going to get sober. It was like, no, it was like basically I felt forced to do it. And now I'm very happy that it played out like that, because if I wasn't forced, I would have died. And when I say forced, I mean, I was really just given ultimatums and stuff like that. And I was so codependent that I was like, I guess I got to go. I don't want to be homeless. And so the reason I bring this up is because there wasn't just some aha moment where I was like, I just want to get clean. There wasn't some bottom that I was like, this is the moment where I need to get clean. No, I went deeper and deeper. I kept going down and I hit tons of bottoms, but I would go through the bedrock with a jackhammer and just keep going. So I don't really subscribe to the whole idea of rock bottom in general, but that's a whole nother subject. So basically, I'm just trying to kind of make it clear how I got into recovery. I did it very reluctantly, but there's a few things that showed me that this would be sustainable. One, I talked to people who had done it. So that's why I share my message, is because for me, I had to hear people who actually did it that I could trust and I could tell were not bullshitting me. So that was huge for me. Peers and even clinical people who had experience with addiction and that were in recovery. So basically, that's what gave me the willingness to get into recovery and to actively pursue it. But prior to that, I really was just going to treatment because I wanted everyone off my back and I didn't want to be homeless. So basically, I want to touch on why I continue to do this. So early on, I started to see some results. I started being honest and open, and I shared all my secrets with someone that I could trust. That can be a sponsor, that can be a clinical professional, sober coach, anything like that. And so basically, I started sharing this stuff, and I realized that it gave me a lot of relief. I was like, dang, I actually feel relief from this. Like, I feel like a huge weight was lifted off my shoulders. And that was really the first thing that I was like, oh, okay, I kind of see why people do this, I'm kind of getting this. But at the beginning, I was like, I'm going to prove that recovery doesn't work. That was my mindset. I was like, I'm going to do this shit. I'm going to prove it doesn't work. And needless to say, it did. So basically, going back to the first thing that I learned, it was really listening to people's experiences and sharing mine with accountability and honesty. A lot of times when people are new to recovery, they can start minimizing, and it's like this almost subconscious effort to downplay your addiction. And I definitely did that momentarily, but I was pretty quick to learn that, hey, this isn't going to do me any good. So basically, I just really want to emphasize how important it is to have community and to share with peers and, people that have been through it. And so that was the first thing, like I said, that was like, okay, this is sustainable. Maybe I'm going to get something out of this. The second thing was involved with community. It was having support from people that I could trust. So you could say that these are kind of the same subjects, but I really want to differentiate these two and say that for me, starting to talk about it was huge, but then starting to open up to anyone around me that had similar experiences and starting to share that, hey, I'm an addict, I'm in recovery with anyone that I loved and cared about or anyone that's really in my life. I think that is a huge key in being accountable, is sharing like, hey, I'm doing this, this is the deal, and it can help you. It can set you up for success and accountability. So that's another thing that I realized is like, oh, this is actually sustainable. Like if I actively talk about this and let it be known that this is how I'm living, then people are going to be less likely to offer me things or to, look at me in a weird light. Like there's still stigma, regardless of if you're in active addiction or actively in recovery. But I just think it's very important to be accountable. So those were the first things I noticed. Then I started seeing that now that I wasn't abusing drugs, my mental health at first got worse, but then it started to get better. So I really want to dive into this and say, so at first it was like I was raw. My emotions came back. I had rebound anxiety. I had rebound pain, and it was super overwhelming. And I thought to myself, man, if this is what it's going to be like, this sucks. And so a lot of people, get maybe a couple weeks sober and they start thinking to themselves, I don't think I can do this, but I just want you to know that it does get better if you work on yourself. And I want to touch on, something that could actually hurt this. So if you get into the mentality of, I'm just going to do this alone, I'm just going to will my way into this, in my experience, that just causes a lot of turmoil, pain, and suffering. It's not my place to be an authority on anything except for myself. So I'm not saying, oh, you can't do it on your own. I'm just saying if you want it to be easier and if you want to have some compassion for yourself, I would encourage doing it with help, asking for help, getting community. So basically, I learned this pretty quickly. And honestly, I was just so tired of living and feeling alone and feeling like I couldn't trust anyone and all of that. So for me, it was like I was waiting for an opportunity like this. I was waiting to be able to address this stuff, but I didn't know that I could. I thought that, therapy was bullshit. I thought that recovery was bullshit. Really anything, good, any positive solution to me just wasn't possible. And I thought that the people that talked about it were extremely condescending and had no idea what they were talking about. And so for me, going back to, community and going back to sharing with others that you can trust and relate to, that was huge to see that, oh, wait, a lot of people have lived experience and they can share this. And it's very applicable in anyone's life that has suffered from addiction or alcoholism. So that's why I do this, and, I'm kind of jumping around here, but I just want to say that I realized after about 6 months, my mind was a little bit more clear. I had some solution. For me, it was like, going to meetings and having community and meeting with a sponsor and all of that. And I also want to say that that's not the only way. That's just my foundation. And at this point, my foundation is a completely different material than the actual structure of my recovery. So I'll just leave that there. But basically, I just want to say that I started to feel better. And I started to realize, hey, like, I'm not hopelessly dependent and addicted anymore. I'm not in a position to where I'm compromising my integrity and morals. My impulse control is back to a point to where I'm like able to make decisions that are sound and good. And so for me, the results is really that's what encouraged me to keep doing it, because I saw the results. And that's why I kept doing it. That's why I still do it. And I wouldn't encourage something that sucked. So a lot of people think when it comes to, those that promote or that try to make recovery look attractive, that it's like, oh, they're just bullshitting or something. Like, no, I can tell you with complete confidence that the only reason that I encourage this is because of the relief I've gotten from it. I went from being completely miserable and not wanting to be alive to regaining my will to live. And my mental health is at the best place it's ever been. But I just want to go back to say that it got worse before it got better. So keep that in mind. It takes a lot of commitment. And the thing is that I found that with practice and repetition, you can really change your whole mentality. And it's said that a psychic change can create a physical one. So if you keep doing this, it can create a change in your brain. And I'm just a huge proponent of that. I'm a huge advocate for that. So that's a huge reason why I make recovery content, is because I want people to know that this is a sustainable solution and that it works if you put in the effort. So I want to touch on something I spoke on earlier and just say, a lot of people's natural impulse is to try to just fight through recovery it's just a battle and it's just suffering and now you don't have the drugs and so it's going to be really hard all the time. I do not subscribe to that idea. To me, I would rather be messed up on drugs than miserable and clean and sober. So for me, there's a lot of things that have helped. I touched on a few of them: community, sharing with peers, having a mentor or a sponsor. The next thing is having positive solutions that you can go to in the moment. For some people, that's prayer and meditation. And for some people, that's positive affirmations. It can be grounding exercises. And it can be just, like I shared before, just talking about it. So when you start to do this, you start to culminate like a new way of thinking. And it creates new neural pathways. And so, look, this isn't just some woo-woo bullshit. I try to focus on the logical action. And I can tell you that if you take these actions, most likely you're going to start seeing some change if you're committed to it. And look, I could rant about this stuff all day, but really what I wanted to touch on in this video is that I went from being miserable and wanting to die to being very happy and being able to manifest a badass reality. There's another thing I want to talk about. I don't think that it's all just everything is amazing now and there's nothing in my life that can be hard. No, there's still mental health things that come up. The thing is that I have solutions for it now, and I don't try to take drugs that numb and sedate me to avoid it. So yes, there can be things that are trying when you're in recovery, but I can tell you that it's nothing compared to what it's like being completely addicted, dependent, and in active addiction. Like there's no comparison. So I just want to make it clear. I'm not saying that, now I don't have to have the human experience anymore because I'm clean and sober. No, I'm just saying that when you reclaim your power in recovery, you can actually manifest a badass reality. And when you're in active addiction, it's like you forfeit that ability because you're partaking in escapism and you're just trying to avoid life. And so a huge thing about recovery is accepting life, but also sculpting it and putting effort into it and creating a reality that's beautiful. So I'm a huge advocate for that. And yeah, I just want to say that anyone can do this. Anyone can do this. And I wouldn't be doing it if it sucked. So that's what I do in recovery. That's I went all over the place with this, but I really wanted to say, all of this stuff to me sounded terrible at first. So keep in mind, it wasn't that I was just gung-ho and was like, yeah, I'm going to do this, man. No, I had to just be reluctantly, all right, fine, I'm going to do this. And I had just enough willingness to recover. So if you go into it with a bunch of willingness and, a bunch of effort, then you can see results even quicker than I did, But try not to focus on a timeline. Try not to focus on that at all. It's great to acknowledge milestones and sobriety time, but I would say this is just a whole side note. Try not to obsess about it. But yeah, really I'm going to end with that because I can keep ranting for on and on. So I just want to say that recovery is possible. If you have any questions about recovery, there's so many different options, not just the way that I did it. There are so many solutions now, so many resources. So just know that there's no one that's too far gone. There's no one that's too far gone. If you have the capacity to be honest with yourself and others, and you have some willingness and you can take some actions, you will recover. So much love to everyone. Reach out to me, sextonsobriety@gmail.com with any questions. And yeah, that's all I have to say for today. Much love to everyone. Be easy on yourselves.